everyone, and welcome to the April 19th Byram Hills Board of Education meeting. We are calling the meeting to order at 7:48, and can I ask you to stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the board did not have an executive session tonight, so we skipped to item 4, comments from the public. Are there any comments on tonight's agenda or items not on the agenda? Hearing none, I will ask for a motion to adopt tonight's agenda with one edit, which is 11.2 Data Privacy Annual Report, which we will be doing, but just not at tonight's meeting. Andrew Taylor couldn't be with us, so we're going to move that to a different meeting.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? All right, so that motion carries, and now we go to our consent agenda. There's no special services agenda, but we have a consent agenda for personnel 6.1 and for business 8.1. Can I get a motion to approve that?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? All right, well with that,
something very special just happened.
Absolutely. Very excited and thrilled to announce that Ms. Palmer will now be the assistant principal at Wampus based on what we just did in the personnel consent agenda. And we know that you've done so much for this district from a teaching perspective in the classroom, my family included, and you've been a wonderful, wonderful teacher, and we are so excited and thrilled that you now can take a leadership role in Wampus, and we just know that there'll be so many exciting and great things to come as you go into that role. So we are here to celebrate that tonight and to just say that we really appreciate all your service, and we're looking forward to your service in a new capacity.
Thank you.
I'd like to add, it's been decades that you've been in Byram Hills, and like all of your colleagues who are sitting around you, there's a commitment to the students in this community that cannot be surpassed. So I want to thank you for that commitment. You bring joy to teaching and learning every day in your classroom, and now you're just going to do that in a different capacity. Your work on site-based has helped prepare this for you. You work on district initiatives. You're working on committees with Tim and I, all in preparation. And although Byram Hills has had great success in our succession planning, meaning people from within the organization trying for administrative positions, just because you've been here doesn't mean you get it. And we know that, and we know that there's fierce competition out there, but you were number one, and we're excited for you in that position. I saw some elementary kids at Wampus yesterday, and they were third graders, and one of them said, "So Mr. Mack is going to be the principal?" And I said, "Yes." And somebody said, "And Miss Palmer's going to be the president." They'll learn soon enough it's the assistant principal. I don't know. Maybe they know something we don't. But your collaborative spirit, your desire to learn and grow all of the time, and the trust that we have in you with our children is incredible. So I am just delighted that you are going to be the new assistant principal, and you and Dave Mack are going to make one hell of a team. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, Lisa, wait, before you do anything, you have to come up here and shake my hand, and I'll tell you why. Come on up. Okay. Don't trip. Don't trip.
Straight ahead. Okay.
Yes. Shake, but turn to the camera because your mother. That's all you need to tell. Congratulations.
Well, on that lovely note, I would love to thank, honestly, everyone, the board. You know, I've served for 20 years in the district, and as teacher, as for some of your children, and now in this capacity, I really can't wait to see the great things that we can do together, as far as, you know, Peggy, Dave, and Jen, and Tim, and Gina. Quite honestly, I've used your words of wisdom in my teaching, and I definitely want to use your expertise moving forward into this new role. And quite honestly, your guidance and support has been irreplaceable, and I will move on to that. To my Wampus family and friends, thank you so much for coming to support me. Honestly, I really could not have done it without you guys, and I will not cry right now. Do that.
She says to the psychologist.
Allergies, it's okay, it's allergies. And to, quite honestly, my family at home, thank you for your love and support. My mother's 50 dedicated years in education has definitely led me to this point, and for that, I will love her always, and she sends her love and gratitude to all of you for nurturing her baby girl. So thank you so much, and I look forward to doing awesome things with every single one of you. Teamwork makes the dream work every single time.
Yay. That's awesome.
My kids, we didn't even have you. We're like, oh my God, she's awesome. Thank you. I really do feel like I know each and every one of the kids as they pass me in the hallway. They're like, hi, Mrs. Palmer. I'm like, hi, little one. Don't know who you are, but I love you too.
And I'm the president.
Right? President Palmer. Make a t-shirt.
Anytime you want, you're welcome to take the seat.
Not on your life. But thank you.
So, and then the other thing that we had in our consent agenda is Ms. Roby from our high school, dedicated math teacher for many years, BC calculus teacher, I know this year, and probably many other years too, is retiring. So we will absolutely have the opportunity to celebrate her retirement as we go into the spring and celebrate many retirements, but she will be missed, and
Many accolades to come for her.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yep.
Generations of kids. So you will be missed, Fran. These are bittersweet moments when you're very happy for a person who's choosing retirement and, you know, that new chapter in their lives, but it's bittersweet for us. So
Her husband's a math teacher too. He
Yeah.
subbed, he
Yeah.
subbed in her class.
that's great. All right, so should we give them?
Yep, a couple minutes. If you're welcome to stay, but if you
Yeah, we know
need
you want to
leave,
go
we
home.
understand. So
Thank you so much. Have a great evening. I look forward to seeing and working with you all.
absolutely.
Thank you. Thanks for coming, everyone.
So we now move to item 9, which is adoption of the 22-23 budget. Turn it over to Kelly.
Nope. April 19th is today, is our budget adoption. We'll adopt the budget tonight. May 3rd, 2022 will be budget hearing 5. We will review the proposed budget. And May 17th, 2022 will be the budget vote at HC Crittenden Middle School from 6:30 in the morning till 9 p.m.
Just as a review for our budget for next year, it's a 1.78% increase, about $1.7 million from the previous year. The budget includes all our programs and services that we currently have. Remaining athletic programs, no change, extracurricular and transportation services. The budget is required to be allocated based on 3 components: the program, capital, administrative. For next year, the program budget is 72.3%, capital 16%, and administrative 11.7%. In terms of the expenditures, almost 78% of the total budget expenditures are based on salary and benefits for our employees. 14.2% is our contractual services. 2.6 supplies and equipment. 2.8 debt service, maintenance projects 1.9, and finally our vehicle replacements at 0.6%. In terms of the revenue side, 89% of our revenue comes from our real property taxes. We receive only 4% from the state. 3% of our revenue is from our payment in lieu of taxes. We have 2 pilots remaining currently. 3% from fund balance, and finally other revenues at 1%. There was a change in our maximum allowable tax levy. The New York State budget was completed on April 8th. So there was some adjustments in terms of our tax levy. Our previous maximum allowable was 2.54%. That's reduced a little bit as 2.5%. We received a little bit more in building aid, but also I made an adjustment in terms of transportation aid. Last year, so it's an exemption. So last year I do an exemption based on how much buses we purchased, how much aid, we take out the difference. This year, I didn't want to do that because we haven't received the buses yet. I didn't think we received aid, but I'm told I can't do it. So I had to add that back in as an exemption, which again reduced our maximum allowable. So again, it's instead of 2.54, our max is 2.5. Okay. In terms of our revenues, again, our tax levy, proposed tax levy for next year at 1.84%. Again, that max being 2.5, so we're 0.66 below that maximum allowable tax levy for next year. 3% reduction in our payment in lieu of taxes, our pilots, really based on our IBM pilot. Increase in other revenues associated with our county sales tax of 10%. A reduction in state aid, again, based on changes in our debt service, that reduction of 5.6%. And then an increase in fund balance of 12% to make up the total revenues for the 1.78% total budget to budget increase.
And Kelly, just while you're on that page, it's probably worth mentioning just because I think there have been a couple of articles that I've seen over the last week or so and a lot of chatter about districts in the county and in the area that have gotten substantial increases from the state. I mean, you're talking 10, 15, 20% increases, and we'll get another increase next year. And at the end of the day, you know, there are debates in those communities about the tax levy and what it should be. But just to remind our community that we did not get that state aid, and in fact, our state aid, well, the foundation aid portion went up 3%, and the overall went down, to your point, because of what you had mentioned, 5.68%. So we're just simply not in a position to have that kind of an increase beyond our control, and therefore, we really are relying, as you can see from this budget, so clearly, almost exclusively, on real property taxes. Yeah,
Correct, that's a great point. And you'll see a lot of budgets, a larger budget numbers in terms of budget because they're getting that additional revenue. They have to put it into the budget, you know, without charging more taxes. So you'll see some budgeted budgets that are 4.5%, 5%, but their tax levy will be 1% or 1.25%, just because that to put that money somewhere in the budget to spend it. You know what I'm saying? Okay. In terms of our estimated tax rates for next year, 85% of our properties in the town of North Castle, a 2% increase. Reductions in Newcastle and Bedford, which is about 1% of our total properties, and then a 0.4% increase in Mount Pleasant, which is 14% of our total properties. Again, in previous, please take a look at previous presentations, and you can get a little more information about how the changes in the assessed value affect the tax rate and the changes in the tax rate on a yearly basis. This is just a slide to just kind of help you understand that. You can see there's various shifts on a year-to-year basis of the tax rate based on the changes in assessed value. If you look back on the presentation on the 29th, you'll see a little more information about that. Our true tax rate, again, this is something that we've looked at the last couple of years. It's really just a way to measure more apples to apples in the district in terms of picking up at your house and putting it in another district, how you would compare in terms of the true tax rate. And again, this is one thing where you want to be on the bottom. It's a good thing to be on the bottom. And again, this year we're towards the bottom. Unfortunately, it's something where districts have not been submitting their data. So we're missing 24 districts out of the 56 in this area. But we're in the same percentage in terms of the bottom, which again is a good thing for Byram Hills in terms of the true tax rate. Just as a reminder, the tax levy proposed is 1.84%. Again, that's about $560,000 less than the maximum allowable, which is 2.50. A 1.78% budget-to-budget increase and a total budget of $96.9 million. Again, this is the budget adoption for tonight. We'll have a final budget hearing on May 3rd. We'll review the proposed budget, and the budget vote will take place on May 17th at HC Crittenden from 6:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. in person.
In person, but there's still absentee ballot.
Yes, in person, but you are still able to obtain an absentee ballot if you have any fear of contracting COVID-19. That's still a viable cause. So just reach out to my office. My email's here. You check the website. You can go onto the website under the Board of Education tab, and you'll have absentee ballot information where you can submit for an absentee ballot. If you have any questions, and please feel free to email me. And it should be on this presentation will be on the website tomorrow. I did get one question from a community member, so I appreciate it. So that's it.
Any questions from the board?
Thanks, Kelly.
So I think with that, we go to the resolution?
Yes.
All right, so we go to 9.5, and I'm going to read out the resolution. I'll first ask for a motion to to approve, or I guess the word is to adopt the resolution for the 2022-23 budget and approval of the property tax report card and the school district budget notice.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Okay, so I'm going to read it out here. So recommended board action is to adopt the following. Whereas the Board of Education has received and carefully reviewed a proposed 2022-23 school budget from the superintendent of schools. And whereas the Board of Education has held several budget hearings regarding the proposed 2022-23 school budget. And whereas the Board of Education concurs with the administration's recommendation on the contingency budget information to be presented on the school district budget notice regarding the 2022-23 school budget. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Byram Hills Central School District adopts the proposed 2022-23 school budget in the amount of $96,939,312 to present to the voters at the annual meeting on May 17, 2022, and approves the following proposition. Proposition 1. Shall the Board of Education of the Byram Hills Central School District be authorized to expend for budgetary purposes in the school year 2022-23 the sum of $96,939,312 and to levy the necessary tax therefore upon the taxable property of the school district. Be it further resolved that the property tax report card and the school district budget notice are hereby approved by the Board of Education for submission to the State Education Department and dissemination to the public in accordance with law. So all in favor? Okay. Got it.
Actually, just wanted to mention, if you remember in the budget process, they talked about electric buses and the purchase of electric buses.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that finally got settled with the final budget on the 8th. So it was, how it ended finally, it was any new buses purchased after 2027 would have to be electric, but there's an extension for up to 2 years. So if you were granted the exception, you could go all the way to 2029, purchasing normal gas buses. But they still have that deadline at 2035. So I wanted to mention that too.
And the current proposal, at least as I understand it, and I think all this information continues to come out, is that there's some they're planning on putting forth to voters in November some environmental bond for the state. I think it's a very large bond, of which I think it's $500 million of that, if it passes, because it has to pass, would then help school districts from a financial perspective. But when you do the math on how many school buses there are in New York State, and you look at that $500 million, it is not a big number. It's not a big number. So
Just from what Kelly was saying, that the cost was
it's
significantly higher.
at this
than gas
point,
buses.
and the cost curve can change, and I'm sure the ranges of the buses will get better. But at this point, the economics are very, very, they're challenging. So there'll still be an effort, and I think we need to be part of it, to try to do what we can to, to get access to different funds at the state level and maybe even the federal level. There's a pool of money that districts that have outsourced buses can tap into potentially, that it's still not clear whether districts that have in-house buses can tap into it. So there's still, I think, work to do as we talk to our legislative delegation to try to get help with this, because if we don't get help, then the cost does fall on the property taxpayer. So, and it's going to be substantial cost over time, not right away, but over time, and it's law, so we don't have much choice. So, and it's obviously we all want to do everything we can from an environmental perspective, but we also want to try to pay for it prudently.
I wonder if there are grants also, because the infrastructure will have to be updated with, to charge the buses
Yep.
and the solar charging.
Yep, and education of the workforce to make sure that they understand how to take care of.
Totally different mechanics.
Yep.
Disposal of batteries. Yep. There's a lot of issues. We got time. Okay.
Kelly, between now and 27, are we anticipating any buses having to be retired due to age?
So we do it every year. So we retire buses every year based on a replacement schedule.
Okay.
So yeah, but we have. My point was we have a couple more years to purchase, our diesel buses, if necessary. I'm hoping the technology kind of speeds up a little faster.
They're all diesel, not run on natural gas?
They're all diesel. Yeah, the low emission diesel.
Gotcha.
I'm wondering if we could put together a committee, a grant writing committee, because there's got to be grants out there.
Yeah. The only problem is most of the grants are
Needs-based.
Right, they won't
high
come
needs,
from-
based on high needs districts. So. But yeah, it's something we're definitely going to be looking into. And doing studies and working on, because, we have to get there, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think and the problem is that the cost of the buses will shift over time and hopefully, go down as they produce more of these things. But getting a sense of the financial impact over the next 10 years would be useful, because I think it would also put us in a position to be able to talk to legislators and say, we've looked at this, and this is the potential economic impact based on, obviously, a bunch of assumptions about how much this will cost. And then, try to do what we can to continue to advocate.
Yeah, I think it'll be advocating every year for this. This will be the next
Right.
next push, which is good. Okay.
Provided they work it out.
Just wanted to mention that. It didn't change with new government.
It's true.
Okay, so with that, we go to, there's no unfinished business tonight, so we go to new business, and now we have actually the BOCES budget, the Southern Westchester BOCES budget, that the detail is in the packet for the 2022-23 school year. And on this one, we need to adopt as well. Give me 1 second to get into it, because my computer.
Here. Give it to me.
Here, Scott.
Here, Scott. Yeah.
I think I'll be able to get into it. There we go, okay. So,
You got it?
no, it's not. Oh, here it is, yep, here it is. So for this one, first off, does anybody have any questions? I know, Kelly, if you've had any direct discussions with them, I know you looked at the materials as well. Anything other than, what was in the packet? It's pretty detailed.
Just as a whole, in terms of the whole BOCES, it's a 1.9% increase for their whole organization. But in terms of the effect on us, we have to pay a portion of their administrative capital expenses. It's about a $3,400 increase. So we're talking about 0.8% for us.
And the increase that they had was, it was 1.9?
1.91, I think it was.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's in the same ballpark as our increase,
Yep.
which I never love it when their increase is higher than ours this year. It's right in the same. Yeah. So I believe, so let's see, so we need to, do you have the text of the resolution? That's what I need.
Is it here,
There,
Is it C?
the resolution?
It's on there.
yeah, okay.
There's three of them, because there's three different,
Right, so we need to do three things. We need to,
There's a resolution, a certification, and a resolution.
You got it?
yep. So the first one is for the, at the meeting of the April 19th Board of Education, Byram Hills, we, well, I guess we need a motion first. So Lori,
So moved for
Second.
resolution act.
Lori and me. Okay, so at the Byram Hills Board of Education meeting held on Tuesday, April 19th, 2022, Lori Canner and Mia DiPietro moved and then seconded that the 2022-23 estimated administrative budget for Southern Westchester Board of Cooperative Education Services in the amount of $12,517,761 be approved. So all in favor? Okay, everybody? Okay, so now we go to the certification,
it's Kelly.
which
That
is
doesn't
you,
have to be
Kelly.
moved. That's
So you
it.
just do that.
Yep. Certified digit.
Okay.
And then
The resolution.
C.
Yep.
So at the meeting of the Byram Hills Board of Education held on Tuesday, April 19th, 2022, let's get a motion.
So moved.
Lara
Second.
and Mia, for moved and then seconded, that one vote be cast for Dr. Joan Weber to serve as trustee on the Southern Westchester Board of Cooperative Education Services for the time period of July 1st, 2022 through June 30, 2025. All in favor of that? Okay. And I believe that is... oh,
Yeah,
Two
Can
more.
we
Two
do
more.
the
Yep.
other two together?
Yeah, let's do it together?
Yeah.
Okay. So at the meeting of Byram Hills Board of Education held on Tuesday, April 19th, 2022, get a
So
motion.
moved.
Jason and Lara, that one vote be cast for Robert Johnson, and then one vote be cast for Lynn Fraser McBride to serve as trustees on the Southern Westchester Board of Cooperative Education Services for a time period of July 1st, 2022 through June 30, 2025. All in favor of that? Okay. All right, so that was not the most elegant, but we got it done.
That was fine. Can I ask you a question? How do these people, is this the thing that you said was up for election this year? Like, how do these people get nominated?
So any district that is part of BOCES can nominate a member.
somebody.
Exactly. Yep. And you can serve on both boards at the same time. So if anybody's interested in the future, I actually think there's still, and there's 2 empty board seats on this board that they just haven't filled, interestingly. So if anybody's looking for another non-paid role, we can nominate you.
And that's it.
And that's it. All right. So now we go to staff reports.
Just quickly, we had this beautiful AP art show held on April 6th and April 7th. We were all invited to it. I want to express that we were moved by the artwork in that room, and so were the families who came to visit. I want to thank Samantha Milowitz for personally inviting me and Tim Kaltenecker to see her pictures of the fire department. It was really, talk about a nice community event. All of the local firemen and women, fire persons, I don't really know what's correct to say, but they arrived to see her pictures because they were all of the fire department and the work that they're doing. It was really amazing to just see the community event come together. And this gives you a sense of what some of the pictures were like. I mean, there was a broad array of them, just a lot of kids having fun watching it. It's amazing. So this is like digital art as well as studio art, hats, costumes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
While you're talking about the fire department, did you see our own
Look
Higley
at
Town
this.
hero, Julie Gallagher? Was the cover of All About
Yes.
His Mom?
Oh, yeah, that is amazing. Julie Gallagher, I don't know if I've told the story publicly before, but we had a car smoking. I looked out the window and I saw Gina Cunningham standing next to a student and smoke coming out of the student's car. And the next thing I saw was Julie Gallagher running with a fire extinguisher under her arm from the high school out to the student end of the parking lot, pop open the hood of this car that was in flames and put it out with a fire extinguisher. I've never seen anything like that. And thinking back to the bus fires, she probably saved a good 20 student cars out of the student parking lot by doing that. And not to mention anything else could have happened. But these are Samantha Milowitz's
Gina, what
pictures.
were you doing there?
I was driving to work. I was driving to work and I saw smoke, and then I saw a student standing next to her, so I got out of my car and I'm like, you gotta get away, like you gotta get away from this car, this is smoking, so.
And it was a nest that
It was
had caught
a-
fire.
Yeah.
Oh, a rodent.
Yeah.
Under the hood?
Yep.
Oh,
That could be really dangerous.
Yes.
Could be.
do that in the winter, right?
Except when
Yes.
Julie Gallagher's around.
Wow.
Today we had a fire alarm go off accidentally at the high school. It was after hours, the first person there, Julie Gallagher.
She's amazing.
So go Bobcats. That's it for me.
A quick question, the principal's coffees are on here, are those the dates? Because a couple of them were not on my calendar, but are those the actual dates that you have
Yes.
here?
In
Okay.
person.
On Thursday.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, cool, thank you.
And Kelly will be doing the principal's coffee at Wampus because I have a conflict with another meeting.
Okay.
But I think he can do it.
So just as a brief report, I was reading a few months ago a summary of a report from the folks at the College Board who were looking into what leads to success in college and career. And they had a few conclusions of the topics students should study, and one of them was coding. And they say this, that with computing, the internet, big data, and artificial intelligence, now the essential building blocks of almost every industry, any young person who can master the principles and basic coding techniques that drive computers and other devices will be more prepared for nearly every job. And then a few days later, I walked into Mr. Lovelace's class at Wampus, and kids were coding the drones. So this was day one of an encore cycle, and Mr. Lovelace was teaching students, featuring a model here of one of our board members. Kids, they were programming the drones, and Mr. Lovelace designs his encores where students can choose different activities, and a group of about 4 or 5 students chose to begin learning how to code, and they have to sort of watch videos, read it, learn the programming, and this was all in one class. They do exercises first, then eventually kids will have to fly through an obstacle course. Now these are drones that you don't move by hand, it's you have to code them to meet certain criteria. So there's a course set up in his room that kids will have to get the drone to code the drone so that it goes through the course and learn how to program it. So these are some pictures of students learning how to do that together. Mr. Lovelace pretty much lets them explore, and then I'll show just a quick video when they finally, the goal of the first activity was you had to get it to rise, and then you had to calibrate it, because it would go up and then it would start drifting. So you had to calibrate the drone so it wouldn't drift, and then had to do push-ups. The goal was to get it to go up and down and up and down, and that was the first lesson. So these are students. Let's see.
How cool to think of the transition from this.
From the
to the
Ozobots?
robotics class.
And the
that we saw
robotics at the high school,
Right.
right?
And then we saw it,
This being the start of
HCC.
that.
Oh, yeah.
30 times per minute. Mine repeated about 10 times. I repeated about 30.
So they have to figure out how to code this on their own. They're watching it go up and down.
Down. Down.
So they're learning the timing of this, so he hasn't quite mastered that yet.
Wait.
So,
And up. Mine's
so you heard that conclusion. Mine's drifting a lot. That means he has to go back and calibrate it. He learned later. So I haven't been back in a while, so I need to go back and I will share any videos where I can find them programming and through the obstacle course at Wampus. But I wanted to share that with you, that this is part of our STEAM curriculum that has now been in place for over 10 years. And coding has been a key element from kindergarten through 12th grade. And as you said in your visit, you saw the robotics classes where kids, it sort of culminates with students really building these complex machines during the competition.
It's so great to cultivate the interest so early too.
Yeah.
We saw some of those kids were really so advanced in what they were doing.
They're
They really-
programming from like elevators to like arms that pick things
Yeah.
up and move.
It
and-
becomes very complex. And
Very
I remember when we started to introduce coding, and Dr. Taylor and I were working with our BTCs and with our technology teachers, and I remember the teachers at the elementary saying, I don't know if kids can be doing coding at this young age. And then cut to the next year when we're really excited that kids are doing this coding of these robots. And you may have seen some of the robots we've shared, some examples of them over the years doing them. As early as kindergarten, we get kids starting to think about the coding aspect and what goes into that coding and the learning that happens. So coding is central to our curriculum now, which wasn't really there about 8 years ago.
I love
So
the
it's-
fact also that it attracted kids for different reasons. Like there were
Yeah.
kids that were sort of really into the computer side of it and the technical side of it.
Yep.
And then there were the kids that were really into building
Yep.
and it kind of let them come at
Yeah.
it from different angles and get to the same place. It was-
And that's really what engineering is. Engineering has a lot of different components to it, and when you're working on an engineering team, you might be the electrical engineer, you might be the computer engineer, you could be the mechanical engineer. There's all these different components that play to different kids' interests or strengths. And they can be very different. A mechanical engineer has a different mindset than an electrical engineer, for example. And we see that as kids go through the program and they take to different parts of it. And that's why the working in teams really helps them. I'm not sure what you saw exactly at the high school, but kids will take on different roles. And some will be the ones that really love to fix things with their hands. The other ones are really loving the coding
And they
piece
were
of
very
it.
vocal about it. They were like, well, we're a good team because I like to
Yeah.
build and he's really good at the coding, so we work together a lot.
Yeah, the collaborative work was one
Yeah.
of the things we noted in the high school
Right.
in particular. We were just saying how amazing it was that these kids were working so well together on.
And that's exactly what kids learn about, is that we need each other because we all have different strengths.
Yeah.
And that's part of sort of the engineering philosophy, is you need to have some deep content about a particular area, but you need to have broad content about a lot of different topics so that you can work with your teammates who know things that you don't really know deeply, but rely on them to do things. You need to know enough to communicate with
Right.
them so the puzzle pieces fit together at the end. And that's really what engineers and teams that are doing this type of work, the skills that we're trying to build in these courses. So these kids individually probably would have taken a lot longer to do this. Mr. Lovelace gets them to work together and help each other out, and they're constantly saying, wait, can you help me with this? And they go back and forth. So it's really fun to watch.
Kudos to Al Lovelace and the BTCs because they really are expanding their repertoire
Yep.
of what they're
They make it exciting.
learning and make it really exciting. Yeah.
There's always some new toys, and we're not always about flashy, but the new toys help a little bit with the kid interest, and it gets a little more sophisticated every year.
Yeah.
I saw the drones piled up in Dr. Taylor's office last year, and I'm like, what are all these? He's like, we're going to start a drone curriculum. So we have drones at every level now. A drone curriculum, I know,
That's right.
right? So it's really about coding the drones, or not just flying, because that's sort of boring, you know?
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, thanks. Just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you.
Anything else on staff reports? No? Okay. Any board reports? Okay. Any communications to report? I don't have anything to report tonight. The cadence between board meetings has been so short. So.
I know, it's true. That's what happens.
So next we approve the board minutes. So can I ask for a motion to approve both the minutes from March 29th and April 5th?
Second.
Any comments, questions, edits? Nope, hearing none, and all in favor? Okay, that's it. So motion to adjourn. So moved. Second? All in favor? All right, good night, everyone.
Thank you.